You ever set a huge, life-changing goal? You're super excited about it, and then it just completely falls apart? Yeah, we've all been there. But what if I told you the reason our biggest dreams fail often has nothing to do with not trying hard enough? In fact, the real secret might be to try a lot less. So let's dive in and see how starting small can actually lead to our biggest victories.
Oof, this right here, this is a feeling we can all relate to, right? Maybe not the faceplant on gravel, but the spirit of it. You decide to get fit, you go all in, you're full of energy, and then, boom, it all goes wrong. The story just perfectly captures that feeling of defeat when our grand plans don't just fizzle out, they backfire in the most spectacular way possible.
And that whole experience leads us to this really interesting kind of backwards question. What if we've been looking at this all wrong? What if the real key to making lasting change isn't about gritting your teeth and using more willpower, but actually about starting so ridiculously small that it's almost impossible to fail? Okay, so this brings us to our first major idea, the myth of motivation. We're going to talk about why that whole go big or go home attitude is, well, pretty much set up to fail. So let's really break this down. The way we usually try to build habits relies completely on motivation and self-discipline. But here's the thing. Motivation is a fickle friend, right? It's never there when you actually need it. This old way requires a ton of effort, which just leads to burnout and that feeling of, ugh, I just can't. And because our expectations are sky high, the second we stumble, it feels like a massive failure. It's so discouraging that we just quit, which just proves that little voice in our head, right, that said we couldn't do it. So if the old way is totally broken, what's the answer? Well, this is where we get into the power of tiny, the art of starting ridiculously, almost laughably small. It's time to talk about microhabits. So what exactly is a microhabit? It's an action that is so small, so simple, that it takes almost zero willpower to actually do it. We're talking about doing one single push-up, or reading just one page of a book, or meditating for literally 60 seconds. See, the goal here isn't the action itself. It's about building the muscle of consistency. It's about just showing up. I absolutely love this metaphor. A single stone block for a pyramid. It's nothing, right? It's totally insignificant. But you lay down thousands of them, day after day, consistently, and you create one of the wonders of the ancient world. That's exactly how your tiny habits work. Each little action is a building block for the massive, incredible results you want to see in your life. Now, look, this isn't just some clever little mind trick or a cute self-help idea. This is actually rooted in hard neuroscience. The reason microhabits are so incredibly effective is because they work with your brain's natural wiring, not against it. And what's so wild is that when you form a habit, you're not just repeating something. According to the research, you are creating a literal structural change in the behavioral network of your brain. Think about that. Every single time you do your tiny habit, you are physically carving out and strengthening the neural pathways for that behavior, making it more and more automatic over time. You're literally rewiring your brain. So let's quickly hit 3 key brain concepts that make this all work. First, you've got neural plasticity. That's just a fancy term for your brain's amazing ability to physically change itself based on what you do. Second, dopamine pathways. Every time you complete your tiny habit, even if it's just one push-up, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine. That's the feel-good chemical. It's a reward, and it creates this powerful loop that makes you want to do it again. And finally, you're bypassing what's called limbic friction. Think of that as the feeling, that mental wall of resistance you get before starting a big task. Well, a micro-habit is so easy, there's basically no friction to overcome. You just do it. Okay, so we get the why. The science makes sense. Now let's get into the good stuff, the how. How do you actually start building these things? Let's open up your toolkit for getting started, like today. The first tool, and this one is a game changer, is called habit stacking. It was made popular by James Clear. The idea is brilliant. You don't have to find new time in your day. You just latch your new tiny habit onto one you already do automatically. The formula is super simple. After I do my current habit, I will do my new micro habit. So, after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Your existing habit becomes the trigger for the new one. It's so effective. All right, here are a few more powerful tools for your kit. First, the 2-minute rule. Whatever your goal is, shrink it down so it takes less than 2 minutes to do. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Next is environmental design. This is all about making your good habits the easy, obvious choice. You want to work out in the morning? Put your gym clothes right next to your bed. Then there's focusing on systems over goals. Forget the big finish line for a minute and just fall in love with the daily process that gets you there. And finally, track and celebrate. Put an X on a calendar, use an app, whatever, but track your streak and celebrate every tiny win. That's how you really supercharge that dopamine loop we were talking about.
So, what does this stuff actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at some really high impact micro habits from different areas of life that you can, totally steal for yourself. Let's just pull out a few of these because they're fantastic. For your mindset, instead of seeing other people's success and thinking, I could never, the tiny shift is just to ask yourself, why not me? For money, it's as simple as automating a tiny transfer to your savings every single payday. For well-being, I love this one. Do a morning commute walk. Just 5 minutes around the block before you sit down to work. Or how about this? Just tidy one single thing before you go to bed. Each one of these is such a small lever, but it can create a massive positive change over time. All right, we've covered the why, we've covered the science, and we've covered the how. Now it all comes down to just one thing, actually getting started. It's time to build your launchpad. So if you remember one single thing from all of this, please let it be this. Success does not start with motivation. It's a total myth. Real, lasting change starts with momentum. And you build that momentum with tiny, consistent, almost effortless wins. You see, motivation isn't the cause of action, it's the result of it. Action comes first. I'm going to leave you with this amazing quote from B.J. Fogg. He's a researcher at Stanford who really pioneered a lot of this stuff. He said, if you plant the right seed in the right spot, it will grow without coaxing. And that's your micro habit. It's the right seed. You don't have to force it. You don't have to coax it. You just have to plant it in the right part of your daily routine and let it naturally grow. And that brings us right here to the final and honestly, the most important question. Not what you're going to do tomorrow or next week or on New Year's. What is the one ridiculously small, too easy to fail action that you will take today to start building momentum and become the person you want to be?